So I wanted to do a video on a topic that's near and dear to my heart because I think about it all the time, but only God exists. And I want to dive into what does that mean? Because it contradicts what a lot of us grow up hearing, myself included. Nothing exists outside of God, and you can't go anywhere and find the totality of God. So the old saying, God is everything and God is nothing, really rings true, because God is everything, as in that's all there is. God is nothing, as in God is no thing. You cannot point to any one thing and say there's the totality of God. So all of this that we experience as everyday life is in the mind of God. Everything's a dream in the mind of God, and we should make it as beautiful as possible. But I know a lot of people think, well, wait a minute. They think that God is some kind of super being or the ultimate being, but God exists separate from all of us somewhere, and we exist outside of God. But if you think about it logically, that's just not true. It doesn't even make sense. I used to think that too. That's the way I was raised, and I went to all the Sunday schools and the church and the Bible camps and all that stuff, and studied the Bible for years, and I still do, and I appreciate the Bible. I am a Christian. I'm a Christian mystic, is what I consider myself, if I have to put a label on myself, I guess. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get off topic, but God is all that there is, and you can't go and find God sitting on a throne somewhere, or whatever these other ideas are. And people say, well, wait a minute, what about Satan or something? Well, I mean, there's no opposing force. There's only God. People think, oh, there's good and there's evil. Well, and this is hard to get your mind wrapped around, but there really is no evil. And you think, wait a minute, look at the world. How can you say that? I understand, but there's only varying degrees of, and I can't even say separation, because you can't be truly separated from God, but you have to allow concessions when you have these conversations. That's what people don't understand, because if we really wanted to have a conversation on these matters, we'd sit quietly in a room and things would be revealed to us simultaneously. But yeah, only God exists, and you have to allow these concessions. So let every man be a liar, and let God ring true. That is so true. I mean, as soon as a person opens their mouth, I mean, it's a lie in a sense. But some people think that Satan is this being that's almost as powerful as God, but not quite. But God made this being. It doesn't make sense that God would make such a being, but he did, or she did, if you prefer. You can just say God. But anyway, I'm just going to walk through here and show the audience some different scenery. Hopefully you find it interesting. But, you know, Satan can't win. Excuse me. I think I swallowed a bug in my big fat mouth. And, but that's not true. Why would God create a being that's almost as strong as he is, and then knowing that he's just going to wreak havoc? And people do bad things, this is true, and then the world seems to blame it on Satan. I think Satan is probably just an analogy for the ego, the flesh, the worldly ideas. This is why a lot of monks shave their head, as a signal that they don't per se care about worldly ideas. hair is an extension of nerves, and so they get rid of that, showing that two things: they don't care about material world, and they don't care about worldly ideas that come from the head. That's the big thing about it. But there's only God. So if you dream at night and you dream of multiple characters, maybe you go to a ball game. I've used this analogy many times in my videos. And there's other people in your dream. Say your favorite baseball player hits a home run and it surprises you. Well, when you wake up, you realize you shouldn't have been surprised. You just put yourself in your own dream. The baseball character was actually, at its core, was you. You gave yourself dissociative identity disorder. And the baseball player was actually played by you. So now, God, in a sense, gives himself dissociative identity disorder. And that's us. Because God... Let me say this. I'm going to try to explain where we come from and where God comes from. But immediately, my audience is probably thinking God doesn't come from anywhere. He's always existed. That's true. We all have. Because eternity is all that there is. Real quick, before I get back on topic on where does God come from, you have to understand just a quick thing about eternity. People think it's a point in time and then it just never ends. It goes on and on. That's a time statement. Eternity is the eternal now. It's happening now. You think about the now. It has no beginning. It has no end. Uh-oh, what's this sounding like? Right? No beginning, no end. It can't be divided. It can't be divisible by anything, the now. You can't measure it. This sounds an awful lot like eternity, and it is eternity. That's our natural state. It's our thinking that gives rise to time, and our perceiving gives rise to space, the distance between you and I. There really is no distance between you and I, just like in the dream with the ball player. There's no difference between the different characters in your dream. There's no space, if you will. I mean, the baseball field is big, right? Where did it exist? Where? Point to it. It was just in consciousness. So, if there's only God, now I'm getting back to where did God come from. I just wanted to explain he didn't come from anywhere, but again, you have to allow this concession because there's no other way to say it. So, if there's only God, almost fell backwards. If there's only God, then what do you do with all of eternity? You're just going to sit there? It's just you? But you can't create outside of yourself, just like I can't create a character in my mind and have it exist outside of myself. It has to exist in my consciousness. Now go up a level where God is, and it's the same way with God. God creates us. We can't exist outside of God. So God divides himself, if you will. So now we'll call God A, and he divides himself. Now there's A and there's A. There's two A's. But there's no degree of separation. There's no limitations on either A. So which A is the original A? Well, they both are. There is no difference. You can't point to one and say this is the original God and the other one's a copy. It doesn't work that way. They're both the original God. There really is no separation. There's still just one. So now you take A. So we'll go back to A. There's just A, which is God. A divides himself. This time he puts a limitation on the other A, if you will, and creates a B. Because B is masked with this, what appears to be a fleshly body. And it's not all-knowing. And its true nature is A, and that can never be taken away. Our true nature is one with God. Christ said, I am in the Father, and the Father is in I. That's, in my opinion, that's what this means. Jesus was acknowledging what I'm trying to explain. He said it simply, but I feel like that can be misconstrued, and you have to decide for yourself. Other people will say, no, I got it wrong. You got to decide for yourself. I don't want people to take my opinion for things. I want people to think on their own and come up with their own ideas. But so now, going back to A and B, if you have B, let's call B could be Adam, but there is B doesn't recognize its true identity because of the filters. At its core, it is just like the baseball player in the dream. The baseball player doesn't recognize its true identity. At its core, it's just you. And it's always been just you in your dream. It's always been just you in your dream. But B doesn't realize that. And you played the character of B. I mean, when you were the baseball player, did you think you were really the being that was creating it all, laying in bed somewhere? No, you were concentrating on hitting the ball and you hit a home run. So this is my scenario of A and B, of God splitting himself. But this is what it means that God created us in his image. And in the Torah, which is if you're not familiar, which is the Jewish Old Testament, you won't see it in the Christian Old Testament. I don't even think it's in the King James, but it says that the Torah says that God creates each one of us by ripping off a piece of himself. Well, what does that mean? Well, that's what I'm trying to explain. That was just somebody's metaphor for what I'm taking 10 minutes to explain. Is I hear this thing and I think, yeah, that just shows that there's only God. That's what that statement means. So, yeah, there's only God. That's near and dear to my heart, and people freak out when you say that. And I've had many, many, many face-to-face conversations, not just online conversations, and it makes people. It hits a nerve with them, and a lot of people don't want to hear it. Well, I ask people not to take my word for it, but to meditate and pray about it for themselves. I don't want people to take my word for anything. Anybody that says, trust me, you got to take my word for it, I'd probably run the other direction. I believe, let me get in the shade here, so I don't know how this video is going to turn out, that peace, love, understanding, those are our natural states. It's all the shit that gets piled on top of it that clouds our knowledge of who we really are. And so when people try to figure things out, I don't mean to talk in riddles, and I've said this before, there's really nothing to figure out. Just remove all the dogmas and the fears that's going on in your head, and these things will be revealed to you. And pray about it. Meditate about it. And I don't think God, some traditional Christians feel very uncomfortable with the things that I say, but to that I say, well, I don't think that God would be mad if you question things. I mean, I see it as God says, question everything. Question the things I'm saying. And if God knows your mind and your heart anyway, why not be honest about it and say, hey, what did that crazy guy on the interweb say? You know, I don't know. I mean, I question everything. I question the things I say all the time. And so I hope that helps. And I want to do another one of these where I talk about salvation, because just real quick, there's I believe that Christ did come to save the world, but and he was put to death for it because he spoke the truth. But he saved us from what, and how did he save us? That's the questions you have to ask. Well, he saved us from what, and how did he do it? Well, from hell, by the blood of the cross. Well, what does that mean? Because I understand heaven and hell as states of mind, not geographical locations that we go to. So Jesus came to save us from a sinful nature, a sinful mind, where we could be free. Not free in the sense of, yay, I don't have to go to work anymore, and blah, 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 I got all this material success. I don't have those things, but I consider my mind to be free because I'm not a slave to the system. Well, how did he do it? By teaching us. And they asked Jesus, what must a person do to be saved? And Christ said, there's two things, and the second is just like the first. Love your Lord your God with all your mind and your heart, and love your neighbor as yourself. Whoa, that's deep. So, yes, Jesus was put to death for teaching these things, which helped us and showed us the way to set ourselves free. But I don't know that, why would God need a blood sacrifice? Ugh. You know, a lot of Christians say, well, it's the blood of the cross. Well, in an indirect way, but like, they mean like literally. And it's just like, but I don't understand some of this understanding, because as a Christian mystic being mysticisms, meaning the mysteries of God, we don't run from them, we dive in. And when you do that, you'll see these things, they'll be revealed to you, that's what salvation is all about, is setting your mind free from a sinful nature. So yeah, I do believe Christ is the Savior of the world, but not by the blood. Because even when I was a kid, I was like, wait a minute. If you have the majority of the people in the world that are going to hell, and they're going to suffer for all eternity, how can Christ, being innocent, die on the cross and pay that price that millions of billions of people have to pay for all of eternity? How can one weekend, I know Jesus suffered, and I'm not trying to make light of it, but how can one weekend of suffering, or 3 days, whatever you want to call it, one extended weekend, pay for billions of people for punishment without end? It doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up. So unless there's something else going on, which is what I'm trying to communicate. Now I am getting too much into my other topic. I'm going to make a video on this, and this very topic about salvation. And I'm going to dig into that, and I don't know. I might walk around in the woods. I live in a neighborhood, but it's on the edge of woods. This is not my property. I wish it was, but we just live on the edge of woods, my neighborhood. So I don't know, if you like this format of me walking around, I can do that. I can go back in my office. I can just do a voiceover and do a slideshow. I don't know. Let me know, please. I want to know. I'm not real good at this kind of thing, and so I would appreciate comments. All criticisms are welcome, as always. I do get a lot of hate in my personal life and online, but I never dish it back out, so I don't know. Anyway, I hope you found this enlightening. Love y'all. Peace. Cheers.